Hello, everyone, and welcome to Uncivil Law. For today's case, we have a decision from the Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit out of Ohio. This is the case of Clinton Dade versus Dallas Baldwin, sheriff in his official capacity. In this case, Clinton Dade, who was a deputy sheriff, was terminated from his job. The reason is the issue. He argues it's because his partner, his baby's mother, was a felon, and so he was punished for that relationship. They say it's because he engaged in domestic violence. So we're going to read a little bit more about Clinton Dade and his family life and try to determine what happened, so let's get started with this. Clinton Dade, a deputy in the Franklin County Sheriff's Office, got into a physical altercation with the mother of his children. The sheriff's office then dismissed Dade for violating the office's rules of conduct. Dade filed an action under 1983 in federal court claiming that he was fired not because of his conduct, but because of his intimate relationship with the mother of his children. Such a firing, he argued, violated the First and 14th Amendments to the Constitution. Davis Baldwin, the current county sheriff, and Zachary Scott, the former sheriff, moved for summary judgment, arguing that Dade's firing did not violate the Constitution. The district court agreed and granted, and we affirm. So first, we have to get into the factual background about Dade's life and his behavior so we can understand more about this family drama. Dade began work as a deputy sheriff in the Franklin County Sheriff's Office in September of 2015. As a deputy in that office, he was required to follow its rules of conduct. Relevant here, the rules prohibited Dale from associating with wrong elements, that is, with known felons in all but a few circumstances, required him to avoid unbecoming conduct that would reflect poorly on him in office, and both on and off duty, he could be suspended or dismissed for a violation of the rules. Before joining the sheriff's office, Dade had a son with Michelle Whitehall. Dale described his relationship with Whitehall as romantic because they would have relations, but explained that he wouldn't stay, and that he and Whitehall had ever been boyfriend and girlfriend because they never dated exclusively and never dated together, never lived together. That's wonderfully romantic, yes. Early in Dade's tenure as deputy sheriff, Whitehall filed a complaint against Dade, claiming that he had beaten her on several occasions, had dragged her out of his vehicle while she was pregnant, and that he drinks and drives. A woman scorned. Internal Affairs opened an investigation and interviewed Dale. Dale admitted that there had been some aggressive situations, but claimed that in each, Whitehall had attacked him and pushed her away to create distance between them so he could call 911. When Whitehall did not respond to the investigators' various attempts to contact her, Internal Affairs recommended the investigation be closed as unfounded. As part of the investigation, additional but ancillary information came to light. Investigators learned that Whitehall, the mother, had pled guilty to unlawful sexual contact with a minor in 2006 and was a registered sex offender. So his baby's mother was a convicted sex offender for inappropriate relationships with a minor. Great. They also learned that she had pled guilty in 2016 to failing to provide her current address to the registry. Dade knew about Whitehall's criminal record prior to joining the sheriff's office. Shortly after the investigation closed, Internal Affairs learned that Dade had been involved in a domestic violence with Whitehall on August the 9th, and the Columbus police had responded to the incident and taken a report. The ensuing police report listed Whitehall as the victim and Dale as the offender, but because Dade and Whitehall gave conflicting statements and there was no independent witnesses, Internal Affairs could not determine who had been the primary aggressor. After Internal Affairs submitted the case file to Human Resources, the Human Resources Director, Lindsay Razy, wrote a memo to the sheriff raising issues with the conduct relating to his employment at the sheriff's office, and recommending that he be terminated because of his propensity to place himself in compromising situations where his conduct is unbecoming of a deputy sheriff. From the facts surrounding the August the 9th altercation and Dade's prior conduct, Razy concluded that Dade had violated the wrong elements, unbecoming conduct, and dismissal rules. The wrong elements rule prohibits officers from associating or dealing with persons whom they know have a reputation for involvement in felonious or criminal behavior except were unavoidable because of other personal relationships. The unbecoming conduct rule requires officers to conduct themselves at all times, both on and off duty, in such a manner as to reflect more favorably on the office. Unbecoming conduct is defined to include that which brings the office into disrepute or reflects discredit upon individual as a member of the office, or that which impairs his duties to operate or the efficiency of the office. Sheriff Scott accepted Raisey's recommendation and removed Dade from service for failing to comply with the rules and regulation and standards of conduct. And my voice has literally changed just now. That's good. All right. At least I can breathe easier. That's nice. I feel like I have more space. I can breathe. Yay. Dade then filed in 1983 action in federal court alleging that he was fired, not for his conduct, but because of his association with the mother of his children. He then claimed that this association is an intimate relationship protected under both the First and 14th Amendments to the United States Constitution. Baldwin and Scott moved for summary judgment, arguing the Constitution does not protect Dade's association with Whitehall, but even if it did, Dade was terminated not because he was with Whitehall on August the 9th, but because of how he behaved that night. The district court granted the motion, and Dade timely appealed. So the issue, at least in part, is he being fired because of his relationship and association with this person who's a felon because of their prior sexual conviction for inappropriate relationships with a minor? Is that the reason he's being fired? Or is he being fired because of his conduct which rendered a domestic violence incident? Which of the two is he being fired for? That's part of the issue here, so let's read on. Yeah, I said this once on a live stream with Leonard when we were talking about the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and I made a projection that 3 years from now, and I think I still got a year and a half to go. So 3 years from now, there's going to be a hearing in which the Republicans are going to say, we need equality of the sexes, we need equal things between both genders. Both men and women should be treated exactly the same. And the Democrats would be saying, no, we need to have women have their own space, and they need to be treated separately, so we can't have equality of the sexes, and men and women should be treated differently. And I got called out by the chat who said, you flipped that around. You flipped the Republican Democrat around. Then later in the stream, I said, no, I didn't. I didn't flip it around. I understand that you would think that would go the other way normally. But if you think about it, with the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and you think about the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts are testifying, and you think about the posture of that, then I was meant what I said. The Republicans will say we need equality. The Democrats will say we don't, because it serves the political interests. So they're going to, flip their script. And then we had a huge debate about whether or not I was right, which I am. I'm totally right. But yeah, just flip the scripts. We figured out how this is going. Yeah, totally. No problem. In his complaint, Dale alleged that he was fired for engaging in constitutionally protected activity. Specifically, he claimed he was terminated for maintaining a relationship with his son's mother, which he contended is a constitutional guaranteed right of the First and 14th Amendments to freedom of association. The Supreme Court has noted that the Constitution protects a right to freedom of association in two distinct senses: freedom of intimate associations and freedom of expressive associations. Incidentally, now that I think about it, and I hadn't thought about it before this moment, but the Equal Rights Amendment is an amendment to the U.S. Constitution, and both the Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts are federally chartered. They're federally chartered. So, how does the Equal Rights Amendment impact the Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts since they have federal charters? Is that state action? Well, it's a question. It's a question that's going to hit the courts about 15 years from now. So you can look forward to that court case in about 15 years. So, yeah. Yeah, you heard it here first, guys. The Supreme Court has noted the Constitution protects a right to freedom of association in two distinct senses: freedom of intimate association and freedom of expressive association. The court described the former right as protecting from undue intrusion by the state certain choices to enter into and maintain certain intimate human relationships. The latter right protects associations maintained for the purpose of engaging in those activities protected by the First Amendment: speech, assembly, petition for redress of grievances, and exercise of religion. We use a retaliation framework to evaluate Dade's claim that he was fired because he exercised a right of intimate association. For a retaliation claim to survive summary judgment, there must be a genuine dispute on material fact about whether the plaintiff engaged in the protected conduct and adverse action was taken against the plaintiff that would deter a person of ordinary firmness from continuing to engage in that conduct, there is a causal connection between elements 1 and 2. That is, the defendant's adverse action was substantially motivated by the exercise of the constitutional rights. It is important to be precise about the nature of Dade's claims. Dade asserts that he was terminated because he associated with Whitehall in order to co-parent their son. He argues the co-parent association is an intimate association protected under the First and 14th Amendments. Unfortunately, there's some confusion in the circuit about which provision of the Constitution protects the intimate right of association. And they note here that there's confusion and concluding that it arises out of the 14th Amendment, not the freedom of association in the First Amendment, which at least to me makes sense because the First Amendment is about speech and expressive activity. So it makes sense that like intimate association is not really implicated by the First Amendment, although you could fold it in there. It makes more sense that it's implicated by the 14th Amendment, yeah. Scott's stated reason for terminating Dale was that Dale had failed to comply with the rules and regulations and standards of conduct. Scott's decision was based on Raisey's memo, which concluded that Dade had violated multiple rules, any of which were ground for discipline, including termination. The Girl Scouts were suing the Boy Scouts for calling themselves Scouts. That was the case we covered. They were claiming that was a trademark violation, among other things. And I think there was a claim in there about like appropriating females or something, blah, blah, blah. And basically my analysis of that lawsuit was, no. I should probably look it up and see if anything has happened in that case. Probably not. I mean, it was like probably a year and a half ago. It's probably still well in its machinations of whatever. I should look up that case, though, and see if anything's happened. Dale latches on to the final rationale for his termination, arguing the real reason he was removed was for his association with Miss Whitehall. The defendants dispute that, saying that Dade's conduct, not his association, caused the termination. We need not untangle the causation question here. Even if a reasonable jury could conclude that Dade was terminated for associating with Whitehall, a known felon, that alone would not violate the Constitution. Dade makes no argument that the Constitution prevents police departments from preventing their officers from fraternizing with criminals generally. Instead, Dade argues that his termination violated the Constitution because it was substantially motivated by the exercise of Dale's intimate association rights, that is, his right to co-parent. No reasonable jury could find that this was so. Raisey's reasoning, read in the light most favorable to Dale, forecloses such a conclusion. She concluded Dale violated the wrong elements rule by associating with Whitehall not as a co-parent, but as a participant in the altercation. Dale objects to this interpretation of the encounter. In his deposition testimony, Dale stated that Whitehall had asked him to come over to talk about their son, with whom Dale was scheduled to do a pickup later that day. Accordingly, Dale contends his association with Whitehall on August the 9th was for the express purpose of parenting. No reasonable juror could agree. Even accepting Dale's account that he went to Whitehall's home as part of his efforts to be an effective parent, he has not established a genuine issue of fact about whether his termination was substantially motivated by those efforts. Thus, even if we were to assume the Constitution protects an intimate association right to co-parent, Dale could not prevail. On this record, no reasonable jury could conclude the cause of Dale's termination was the exercise of any constitutionally protected right. So on a scale of, I don't know, like to dislike, I guess. How are you, or a scale of anything you choose, I suppose. How are you guys liking the stream so far? Is this working for you? Are you having fun? You have comments about my presentation style, or, want me to I could become more like Tim, what's his name? Tim Pool. Tim Pool is the name I was looking for. Thank you, Tim Pool. And I could become more like Tim Pool. And just become like, God, you gotta stay with me, guys. You gotta stay with me on this thing and like channel some Tim Pool, yeah. Applying for your concealed carry permit. Good luck, Unicorn Cupcake. Are you gonna tell them on your form that your alias is Unicorn Cupcake? That'll go really well on your concealed carry form. I think you should write it down. So that is the end of the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals of Clinton Dade and Dallas Baldwin in his capacity as sheriff. In this case, we learned that Clinton Dade was fired from being a sheriff. There was a dispute as to why, whether it was because of his intimate association with a person who was bad or because he was bad on himself. And there was evidence that he was bad to himself, that he was being fired because of the events of that night, not because of his association with the person. So there is some internal police discipline. This person has been terminated, and that is the end of this case. Thank you for joining me as we both read this case together and now better understand the law. If you're enjoying this legal education content, please subscribe to this channel. It really helps us grow. And check out one of our other videos, including the one that's currently being displayed on the thumbnail on screen. Thank you so much for your continued support. And until later, my friends, cheers and goodbye.